Welcome back to Sports Gamers Online. My name is Curtis Russell. I'm a editor, writer here at the website, and we are joined with our MLB expert, Brandon. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Happy for new baseball season, new MLB The Show season.
Yeah, opening days on the 30th, right? Coming up here.
Yep.
So you're doing early access with MLB 23, right? MLB The Show 23.
Yes.
And before we even got on, you immediately talked about how long you already been playing the game. How does it feel? Like usually when you start playing like a new sports game yearly, it's like immediately you can feel the difference or lack thereof. So how does it feel this year?
So one of my biggest gripes with last year's MLB The Show was hitting, and I talked about that a lot. It feels better in certain areas where it's a lot better. There's a couple of small areas where it still feels like it's not great. So the areas it's better, a lot less foul balls, which was something that a lot of people, including myself, were very irritated by last year. It felt like you could just foul everything off. So when you were playing against someone online and they made a bad swing, they would get rewarded for it with a foul ball. So you had to keep pitching to them until eventually you made a mistake and they would hit a home run on you. That's gone. If you're not swinging at good pitches, you're going to swing and miss a lot more this year, which I think is good, especially on the competitive play style, which is what you play with in Diamond Dynasty, as well as any sort of online head-to-head stuff. Hitting also, the new bat PCI, I like it a lot. It just gives you a better feel for, I guess, just sort of like where your bat's going to be when you swing. I've seen a lot of people are using that. I've used it myself. I think it's probably what I'm going to be using throughout MLB 23. The problem where I'm still seeing with hitting, and it's only on the competitive play style, which is what they put a lot of work into this year, launch angles and exit velocity still feel a little inconsistent, especially when you're not pulling the ball. So if you're early and you're able to pull the ball, launch angles and exit velocity still feel really good, especially with high power hitters. But when you're hitting like towards opposite field or even towards straightaway center, I've seen like guys with top tier power still getting like 90 exit velocity when I've got good contact, good PCI placement. And then launch angles feel really inconsistent. So I'll have my PCI like right on the ball or even above the ball a little bit, and I'll get a higher launch angle than when I'm under the ball more. So that just feels a little odd to me. That might be something they do address. Of course, SDS doesn't really like to patch hitting throughout the year ever since MLB The Show 20 when they went in and kind of messed it up completely.
Well, that was my follow-up question.
Shy about that.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question to that. Was like, do you think that'll be like some type of update before launch? Do you think there will be kind of like a day one kind of update that will kind of address some of the hitting issues that are early on?
If there is, it would be day one, but considering like their track record the last few years, they don't like to make gameplay updates during the year. That's kind of why we got the whole working as intended meme in the community last year, because they kept saying it was working as intended when everyone knew it wasn't, just because they don't like making those gameplay changes throughout the year, because they don't want to break it even more like they did in MLB 20.
Okay.
So that might be something that we have to deal with, but in terms of if you can get ahead on the ball and you can pull it, it's a lot better. Foul balls are a lot better. Overall, it's easily eclipsed 22. Yeah. It just hasn't gotten to where it has been in years past.
Right. Now let's talk a little bit about like the recent years of MLB, because I've had a few friends that they love the game, but they can slowly see that small decline in just quality and what the game has been bringing. Do you kind of feel that with what San Diego Studios has been doing recently? Is like it just seems like MLB hasn't been hitting the heights that it should have been hitting over the last couple of years?
In certain areas, yes. Last year was, a lot of people, including myself, feel one of the worst MLB The Shows we've seen in a while. Wow. In terms of gameplay. The esports scene hasn't really gotten the attention that I feel like it deserves in its respect.
Is that because of just maybe the type of sport it is? the type of game it is. Maybe other games like, you know, FIFA 2K are just easily like catered to that esports scene, or it's just they're just not pushing the esports scene in MLB.
I think so. From what I've played Madden, I've played 2K. MLB The Show very easily has some of the highest skill gap, so I think it would lend itself to an esport very easily. SDS just doesn't promote it. So, for example, they have 2 tournaments every year, the summer and the fall circuit. The fall circuit tournament, they didn't even advertise it at all on their social platforms until an hour before the final day
Oh my
of
goodness.
the tournament.
Oh my goodness. You talked about the hitting. What about other areas of the game, like base running, catching, things like that? Do they still, you know, feel similar from last year's game?
So the fielding is completely different if you're using the button accuracy method, which most people do. If you haven't heard so basically, instead of just having that green section in the center, depending on your fielding ratings, your arm strength, accuracy, and all that, that little section is going to move in that meter.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to be paying attention to where that's moving, how fast it's moving, how fast your little section is moving. You really have to stay engaged when you're fielding. It's very frustrating at first, but it's also a lot of fun when you actually do make a good throw.
Yeah.
And also, you have to consider that now when building your lineups. How are my fielders? Are they actually good? And when you're at the plate, I'm actually finding myself now, I'll click R3 and you can pull up the shift as well as the fielder's ratings. And I'm looking at players' ratings. I'm like, oh, that right fielder, he's got decent arm strength, but his accuracy is terrible. So no matter what, if I hit it his way, I'm testing that arm. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So that bit of strategy is a lot better. Pitching, I found, I'm one of those weirdos. I still use meter. I never could get into pinpoint. Meter pitching feels a lot better. It feels like a happy medium between MLB The Show 22, where it was a little bit, it was a lot harder to get good pitches, and 21, where you could just, super dot right where you wanted it to go. It feels like we're at that happy medium. Pitching feels really good this year.
Good, really good. So you talked about, well, before we came on, you said you've been playing a lot of Diamond Dynasty. How is that mode? Obviously, that's the mode you kind of enjoy the most. That's the mode you're into the most. How does it feel this year?
So this might be the best launching of Diamond Dynasty ever. So they've basically taken the card collecting genre, where it's all about that fear of missing out, that power creep, and completely flipped it on its head, because there's over 99 overall cards you can earn right now for free just by playing the game. You can get, I've been playing for 2 days. I have no one below a 90 on my roster right now, and that's just from playing the game. I'm no money spent in this game, and really that's sort of how MLB has always been. It's been very accessible to no money spent players. It's just about grinding the game, and they've made it a lot of fun to grind. They've brought back the XP reward pack. They've gotten rid of the featured programs, which was something I didn't like last year, and I talked about that a lot. The regular XP reward pack is back, and now if you finish the XP reward path and you continue to gain XP before the next one starts, you get extra rewards, because they have this little thing where it like loops at the end. And so for every so much XP, you get like a random reward. And that can include even the bosses from the XP reward path. Also, Team Affinity is back with all 30 cards you can now earn. Last year, they had the feature programs that were Team Affinity like, where they had the 30 cards, one from each team, but you only get like 12 or 18 of the 30 cards. That's gone. That's fixed. All 30 back again. That's a big improvement in my opinion. And I'm just having an absolute blast with Diamond Dynasty. And it's reminded me of like when I first got into Diamond Dynasty and how addicted I was to it then. That's kind of how I am so far here in this one.
That's really good to hear, actually. And the funny thing is, as you were talking about it, I was like, oh, that's in the recent article that we just put up right now on Sports Gamers Online, because they had the stream recently, right? Was it yesterday?
Yeah, it was Thursday, and it was like almost 3 hours long. They had their entire content team there, and they were just talking about all these different major cards that are already in the game at launch. We have a 99 Mike Trout at launch, which is the card like we always wait all year to find. But because they're doing this new sets and season thing, they've got all these powerful cards. They're not waiting anymore to give us the best cards anymore.
Okay, perfect. Let's move over to Road to the Show. I know. Did you say have you dabbled in the Road to the Show yet at all?
So I haven't yet because I'm waiting. They haven't updated the companion app for MLB The Show yet on iOS, which is what I have. And I'm wanting to use that new face scan feature. So that was really the only thing that was added to the show this year, sadly, was the new face scan. You can take a picture of yourself and connect it to your MLB The Show account, and it'll basically generate your face on a player. Haven't gotten to try that yet. I have seen some other people playing Road to the Show, and also wrote an article when they did their feature premiere. Basically, Road to the Show, for the most part, is untouched this year, which is extremely disappointing. That's one of their tentpole modes, one of their most played modes still to this day. And to see it get very little updates, outside of updated UI, the dynamic challenges, they called them dynamic challenges 2.0. Basically, it's the exact same challenges. They changed the menu up, and now also sometimes instead of just getting attribute upgrades, you'll get either like an equipment pack or points to your little program for your archetype. So that's nice that that's added. Other than that, Road to the Show is basically untouched this year. I do plan to hop in and play some before we actually do the review. But I'm still waiting on that companion app so I can try the face scan and see how that works.
Yeah, it seems like with this review in progress, you're about halfway through, just about done getting everything together with the review and things like that. It is very disappointing with Road to the Show, especially somebody that's very casual with this game. I really like that mode in particular because that's the one that's just most enjoyable. So it kind of just sucked that, it's just the UI changes. I remember reading your article. It's that UI change that's it. It's like a fresh coat of paint. What it was like, was it added bat sounds or something like that? Or they took some away? It was just like small things they added.
Yeah, so the feature premiere for Road to the Show was like 15 minutes long, which was nothing compared to all the other streams.
Right.
And they spent the first 3 minutes talking about the bat sounds in the game.
It sounds like they just needed something to talk about for most of the time. So they were like, we're just going to talk about how good the bat sounds sound. Okay.
They do sound good, but
yeah. The most authentic bat sounds you'll ever hear in a baseball game.
Yeah.
Is there any other areas in the game that you've tried out that you're very impressed with this year?
So I did try out franchise mode. First, I just did a couple of simulations. I'll have a video up on the channel sometime this week of our actual 2023 simulation predictions with MLB The Show 23.
Nice.
That turned out very interesting, so you'll want to check that out. But I wanted to look specifically at the new scouting and drafting system and see how that is. Basically, what they've done is completely revamped how they generate the prospects, how you go about scouting them, and then the actual draft process itself. It's much better than what we had previously. I really enjoy it so far. That was the part of the mode that had been basically untouched for basically since the show has been around. It's been exactly the same. The 4 scouts, scout your area, scout your prospects, whatever. Now they've brought over that system that they put into free agency for March to October last year. They brought that over and sort of engineered that for scouting and drafting in both franchise and March to October. So now you have 3 scouts, top priority, medium priority, and then low priority. And then you can either discover new prospects in a certain region, scout a specific position in a certain region, or scout individual prospects with your 3 scouts. It's very interesting. It's a weekly thing, so you have to update it every single week. And then when you go into the draft, there's the new draft screen. There's all new ways of determining like whether or not you want to draft someone. So they got rid of the traditional 20/80 scale that MLB uses and went to the regular ratings to sort of make it a little easier to tell how good a player is. The bonus demands, that system that MLB actually uses, I was very surprised to see that was fully implemented, because it's a very complex and complicated system for how, prospects determine what bonus they get and whatnot.
Right.
I like it a lot. I think it's very cool that just because you draft a guy now, instead of just being, click, click, he's signed, you have to actually go through a process of determining, okay, what sort of bonus am I going to give this guy? And you only have so much money to spend on bonuses for your draft picks. So you have to, divvy that up as best you can to try to get all your guys signed. And if you don't sign a guy, he can go back to school and then show up in a draft in the next year or so.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I like that. With all that said, as we get to the end of our review and progress here, what has so far been kind of your least favorite thing? You talked a lot. You actually been talking the game a lot. I've been very surprised. You have a lot of areas that you're really happy with, and a lot of areas that have improved. What haven't you been so happy about with this new game?
The main thing for me is that inconsistency with the launch angles and exit velocity that I talked about on the competitive game style.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I did play around with competitive and simulation game style. Didn't see that at all in the simulation game style, which you can use in like Road to the Show franchise. But when you're in Diamond Dynasty, you always play on competitive, whether you're online or offline. So that the fact that still is an issue where it's inconsistent, that just the inconsistency is what annoys me about it so much. Like, you can have a guy with 120 plus power get good contact on a ball, but because you're on the late side of good, or you can have a perfect but on the late side of perfect, instead of it being 107 mile an hour off the bat at 30 launch angle, now it's 93 off the bat and it's a lazy fly ball to right field or dies on the warning track. That was the thing that basically killed MLB The Show 22 for me. And I hate that it's still here. It's definitely better, but it's not where it needs to be.
Good looking. All right. My name is Curtis with Sports Gamers Online. That's been Brandon, our MLB expert. His review will be out very soon. Hopefully we get it by Tuesday. You guys can read everything that he has to say on there. Brandon, where can they follow you on Twitter?
So you can follow me on Twitter at IDEJGamingYT. And yeah.
And my name is Curtis. You can follow me on Twitter at Cali from the Dojo. Make sure you guys look out for our MLB The Show 23 full review, because Brandon's going to have a lot to say, and he's probably the best person to ask when it comes to this game. All right, guys. Check you later. Peace. If you guys like the content we do here on Sports Gamers Online, then hit that like button and subscribe to SGO right now. And if you want the most out of your SGO experience, then join SGO Insider.